One of Wichita's largest employers.
This is after months of speculation. Boeing and Airbus announcing an agreement this morning that would break up the supplier Spirit Aerosystems. It's a really complex deal, likely not finalized until mid-2025.
We have Team 12 coverage tonight as to what this will mean for Wichita and its workers. A lot of you are asking questions. We begin with Sean Logging, who took some of your questions directly to Spirit. Sean?
Mike, the message today, no immediate changes to what Spirit Aerosystem does and the people who work here, but this will reverse the move that Boeing made in 2005 when it spun off Spirit. It says both of these companies are looking to repair their reputation and trust after years of production and quality issues. There's officially an agreement.
It's just going to be a lot of change.
A complex deal between two of the world's largest airplane makers that will split up Spirit Aerosystems.
Got not just the Wichita site, you've got multiple sites across multiple companies. You've also got two rival titans in Boeing and Airbus.
Spirit is Boeing's largest supplier in Wichita, building the fuselages and other parts. Boeing will acquire Spirit with a stock offer of $37.25 per share, $4.7 billion overall. That means Spirit's shareholders will own Boeing stock at the end of this deal. The total transaction, $8.3 billion, which includes Spirit's debt.
Our teammates here, our team here in Wichita, they're going to continue business as usual until the transaction closes, which could be, what we projected is middle of next year.
Boeing will acquire the production lines for its planes, including in Wichita, along with Spirit's defense work and some other commercial programs.
We've entered an agreement where some of our Airbus programs will go back to Airbus. And that's happening along a parallel path with this other acquisition by Boeing.
The Airbus Spirit deal will see Airbus pay $1 while Spirit will compensate the European plane maker with $559 million. Airbus will acquire its production lines, including the A220 pylons in Wichita. The entire acquisition will need the approval of regulators in the U.S. and Europe.
Our CEO is lighting up the phones, making sure our teammates are armed with as much information as possible about what this means for them, for their families.
Spirit says what this means for its employees long-term is unknown right now. A transition team has been set up looking at the next steps. We're also hearing from the union that represents many of the workers here calling on Boeing to prioritize working standards and manufacturing standards and workers in this acquisition. In a statement today from District Lodge 70's president, she says, quote, "We call on Boeing to honor its commitment to fair labor practices, job retention, and the protection of workers' rights," adding that this needs to lead to growth and certainty about the working conditions and not uncertainty and instability. I reached out multiple times to speak with the union on camera today, but did not hear back.
Team 12 coverage tonight.
Mike, Rachel, aviation is one of the leading industries here in the city of Wichita, and with Boeing buying Spirit Aerosystems, the question of economic impact, both positively and negatively, have been brought up. Employing thousands of Wichitans, aviation is one of the leading industries in the city. However, with Boeing buying Spirit Aerosystems, employees are worried about any upcoming changes.
Well, we're supposed to be the air capital, so yeah, I'm pretty sure it's gonna put a big impact on the town for sure.
Greater Wichita Partnership's Vice President of Economic Development says economically the partnership may not be a bad thing.
Boeing is one of the largest aerospace companies in the world, and they're a major U.S. exporter, one of the leading exporters. And so from a Wichita standpoint, this is a great opportunity for us to continue to expand globally our leading aerospace supply chain and our presence as a leader in commercial aviation and in aerospace.
Many of unanswered questions, but as of right now, everything will not be finalized until 2026. In Wichita, Julia Daughtry, 12 News.
Julia, thank you. We're also hearing from members of Kansas's federal delegation about news of the deal. Congressman Ron Estes is reacting, saying he's monitoring the acquisition and their engagement with the community. He says, quote, "Regardless of the name that appears on the expansive complex in Wichita, I'm committed to ensuring the air capital of the world's skilled workforce continues to thrive." Senator Roger Marshall also put out a statement saying that he looks forward to Boeing enhancing Spirit's crucial role in the aviation sector and saying the merger will, quote, reinforce Wichita's position as the air capital of the world.
Still asking a lot of questions about what this will mean for workers in the Wichita economy, trying to get more information about how it will impact those local employees. Will there be layoffs with this? Will Boeing honor the latest machinist union contract approved last summer? Is that part of the deal? And again, how will this impact aviation suppliers and subcontractors? We have so many of them here in Wichita. We'll continue to follow this story and what we learn here on air and, of course, over on the 12 News app.
Now,